Start miscommunication, different time zone stuff. But I'd like to thank John Siuntres of Word Balloon for joining me. John, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thanks for asking me, Robert. I'm sorry for the confusion.
No worries, no worries. But I've been a big fan of your stuff. In fact, believe it or not, it's thanks to your channel that kind of got me, well, thanks to a little bit that happened on an episode of your show that made me interact with creators a lot better. I don't know if you recall this. There was a Greg Rucka episode you had a long while back, one of your earlier ones, where he brought up about how there's this one guy who's talking about the female Dr. Light. I have no idea. That was me.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and after that, I was like, wow, I did not know I was that much of a pester to him that he would bring me up during it. So after that, I started treating creators a bit more respectfully. I thought more about stuff before I talked to them, and whether for your show, I might be more of a nag.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. No, and we're all learning. We're all evolving, as my friend Kelly Sue would say.
Right.
Yeah, so I miss Greg. Greg's been busy, but
mm-hmm.
He's one of my. It's been nice. I mean, truly, having done it as long as I have.
Yeah,
several of my guests have become good friends, and certainly Greg's one of them.
Yep, you've done it for a long time. What got the show started?
Well, this is going back to 2004, 2005.
Yeah, wow.
I know. I was going May 10th. It'll be my 17th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
But my initial thought was to make a documentary about comics, and I had a video guy, and we interviewed Brian Azzarello. We interviewed Joe Gentile from Moonstone Comics. We interviewed Matt Collins, and we wanted to do comic books that were tied to Chicago in some way. And Azzarello being here, writing 100 Bullets. Joe Gentile and Moonstone being based here in Chicago, and Max writing Road to Perdition. Which
yep.
So yeah, that was the original thought, and my guy kind of flaked out on me. That's okay. And but the good news was, he was kind enough to give me the audio. So we interviewed Max Allen Collins first, and that was December of 2004. And so he was busy. He in fairness to him, he was getting video jobs for local TV stations, PBS and the like. So he was a little too busy. So then, I took the audio and I'm like, well, let me at least do that. And May 10th of 2005, this is even pre putting podcasts on iTunes.
Yeah.
Because it was about a year, like September of 2006. One of my listeners is like, iTunes hosts podcasts these days. Instead of just posting MP3 files on your website, you ought to put them, on iTunes. So that's really, I was inspired by reading about in Wired magazine in February of 2005. That's when they had a big article about podcasting, and that's when a lot of us got started.
Yep. And then I remember how eventually, once you start getting other creators, you would put up on message forums like where to ask questions and everything. I mean, I remember as far back as Jeff John's comic block message forums, and then Bendis's forums and all that stuff. And nowadays, thanks to YouTube and all the chatting stuff, you could just have the questions right here on there. Of course, you're more likely to have the trolls in, and it's a bit, you can't preemptively filter them out. But yeah.
No, that's true. I mean, and I'll tell you one benefit of YouTube, because I always felt bad going back to Comic Block. There was a deaf comic book fan who's like, hey, can you transcribe your interviews? And I had a full-time radio job plus Word Balloon, and I'm like,
all right, yeah,
I really can't. And the guy was really, really angry, and really like even told a few creators, don't do John's show. He won't. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
And truly, honestly, I felt horrible. And one creator, even, I won't say who, is like, well, if you won't do transcriptions, I won't do your show. And I had to explain to them, look, I'm a one-man band, man. I'm like, I don't even have like a partner that we could like share this responsibility. And they understood. And that creator did contact that person on Comic Block. And it's like, give him a break, okay? It's like,
Exactly. Exactly.
stop
And
it.
right, I remember so many other creators. Like I still have a photo of a personal message from Steve Gerber before he passed away, mentioning about he had plans for a follow up, a second follow up to Superman: Last Son of Earth. He told me
Wow.
that he had that, and he said I would love to do that one day. Unfortunately, he passed away not long after that, but I will never forget that. Just
God.
comic book was what first got me into comic fandoms was through with Jeff Johns all that stuff. You had AOL instant messaging. I mean, that's where I pestered Greg Ruck a lot. Again, oh boy, I just feel like wow, Robert, you just he brought the fact that he, without naming me, for obvious reasons, brought it up as an example. I'm just like,
Dr. Light.
okay, not everyone knows about what the other person's doing. Not everyone. It's not like it's not as tight knit as I thought it was. It's not the Marvel bullpen. Yeah. So
You're not
clearly
wrong.
you're a comic fan. So how far back does your fandom go? What
Oh,
got you into comics?
oh yeah. I mean, my my dad was so brilliant. Really, he wanted me to read at a very early age, and it's so
Mm-hmm.
interesting how child development has gone
Mm-hmm.
in that direction. Because I mean,
Yep.
I'm in my late 50s now,
Mm-hmm.
57, and this was like 69
Right.
when I was like 4 years old, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a December baby. So
Right.
when Sesame Street premiered,
Mm-hmm.
they actually had um in the newspaper
Mm-hmm.
reading tutorials.
Right.
And so my dad is like, okay, look at this and stuff. And I was reading at a very young age.
Oh yeah.
And so he started me off on the comic strips. And then literally my earliest memories of comics are going to the barber and
Mm-hmm.
getting my hair cut and sitting alongside National Geographic and I'm sure Playboy or whatever were a handful, were a handful of like 12-cent comics. I mean, sadly, I'm
Right.
that old. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
looking at Carmine Infantino,
Oh
Flash
yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
Dead Man, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
DC stuff
Right.
early on. And then also I had older brothers and cousins and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so I would inherit, a
Right.
box of certainly not a pull box. I mean, this is before a
Right.
pull
Right.
box, but like
Yeah.
comics with the covers worn off or whatever.
Oh
So
yeah.
very very early memories of the end of the Silver Age and the beginning of the Bronze Age
Mm-hmm.
as far as DC stuff. And then when I got my 50-cent allowance and comics
Mm-hmm.
were 20 cents, I could afford 2 comic books a week at
Right.
my drugstore spinner rack. And that's when I started reading Marvel as well. But I will say that
Mm-hmm.
I was originally a DC person.
Oh, I've been here. Well, my story was I started reading late. It's about first grade, but as soon as I was in first grade, I shot up in my reading level. I just read anything I could get my hands on. And yeah, basically grew up with my reading level. And then eventually my grandmother, because I had a great uncle who had a comic book store. Sometimes she would have
Oh,
extra
great.
books. Yep. And some of my comics I had that she had at her house was the very first ones I ever read, issues of The Funeral for a Friend of Superman. And after that, yeah. And after
Well, I'm
that,
just laughing, of course, because I was in my 20s at that point. But that's
right.
very good.
But after that, I read some of those, caught my
Sure.
interest. I eventually got the trades. I started buying a bunch of trades. Then once I got into college and I can actually have a local comic book store, disposable income, I went on over, bought them like crazy, and I've been a big fan ever since.
I remember very early on, and again, these are 70s
Mm-hmm.
trades.
Right.
The Wildfire Marvel trades,
Oh, yeah.
Origins of Marvel Comics and Son of
Mm-hmm.
Origins,
Son of
and
Origins and,
Beyond the
yep.
Bad Guys. Yeah, the one Christmas I really hit a great bonanza of
Mm-hmm.
those, and then also the hardcovers of Superman and Batman from the 30s to the 70s.
Yep.
And I mean, my God, that was a great Christmas. I mean, I really
Mm-hmm.
like, and again, it was reading. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
have a nephew. God, he's in his 20s now, but he was
Mm-hmm.
having trouble with reading and stuff. And it was
Mm-hmm.
great because his dad, my brother-in-law, is a real jock and really was like
Yep.
training both of my nephews into sports and stuff. And I started giving my youngest nephew comics,
Mm-hmm.
and he started reading it. My sister's like, "Hey, he's
Mm-hmm.
reading." And I'm like, "That's
Yep.
great." And the brother-in-law and I get it. It's fine. He's like, I'm really kind of like leaning them towards athletics. And I'm like, that's fine. I said, but I don't know how to break it to you, but apparently it's working and the kid's reading. And he really thought for a second and he goes, yeah, you're right. Sorry. Never mind. And I'm like, yeah, dumbass. I mean,
Exactly.
he's a good dude, but it's like, yeah.
Sometimes that mindset's in your head for some people.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, man. And I mean, you kind of trick kids into learning, and they think, oh shit, it's vegetables. I'm sorry if I can't swear.
No, you can shit square as much as you want.
All right, good news, excellent, because that's how I tell people on my show too.
Yep.
No, I'm like, hey man, I'm like, it's reading, and you trick them. I mean, it's like, no, this is fun. Look at all the fun pictures, and they're reading in the meantime and stuff, and it only helps. So yeah, I mean, I'm a huge believer in handing young kids comics, and obviously. My friends Art and Franco write kid comics and first reader books. So yeah, it's a great thing.
Yep, but the other thing though is that for me it also broadened how I think about stories. Like Christ on Infinite Earths was one of the first trades I got. Now of course you think, oh crud, that's throwing him into the deep end. I understood every bit of it.
That's great.
Female Dr. Light is one of my favorite female heroines, still is to this day. And since then, like you have the Dark Crisis coming out. I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay, again, from a marketing standpoint, you're like, okay, didn't we hear most of the stuff with death metal? But story-wise, I'm into it.
Yeah, I really, I mean, listen, I like Scott's stories too. Snyder's a great writer, but I am a big Josh Williamson fan.
Oh yeah,
and I'm so happy for him that he's getting the opportunities that he's had in the last couple of years. So he's got my trust. He had it with Flash. Yep. And then certainly every great thing and big thing. And he's doing great.
He's become like the new Jeff Johns. He's become the Jeff Johns in comics.
I'm sure he would love that comparison.
Oh, I told him that. I told him a few years ago at C2E2, and he loved that. And now I feel like Jeremy Adams is the new Joshua Williamson as far as with his Flash and how much. And I've interviewed him. I don't know if you've interviewed him yet.
I haven't had Jeremy on yet. No, I have to.
It's infectious. His energy is infectious.
That's good to know. That's really good to know. No, and I have to say, again, sometimes we worry when Jeff Johns gets too busy to write comics. Now, obviously, and I'm thrilled for everybody that does this, the current model is one of the ways, make your audience at DC or Marvel and then pick up and move. And this is well before Substack even.
Like Kirkman. I remember Kirkman stated that once before he was with Image. He was telling people, I remember he put that manifesto out to people.
That's right.
And that's what inspired John Layman to do Chew, was that manifesto. But now, I didn't agree with Kirkman stating, use comics to go into doing your own stuff. That's the only reason to do mainstream. When he put it that absolute, I feel like there are some people who do it because they want to do the characters, not because they just want to do their own creator own.
Well, you're right, but I mean, it's still. I would say it's use comics, it to your advantage. I mean, it's
exactly.
It's work for hire. So if you really only aspire and commit to the big two, you're kind of, there's.
But if it works up, if your heart's in it for the characters that have already existed at these companies, and now of course I never thought Jeff Johns would do creator-owned work until he did Geiger, and good God, that's been some of my favorite stuff out there.
Yeah, no, and obviously, if television and film hadn't worked for Jeff, he probably would be making more Image books and stuff.
Oh yeah, but, he's got two now coming. He has Junkyard Joe and Redcoat, so can't wait for those.
Yeah, and again, it's been this way since Robert and the Manifesto back in 2009. So, God, that's 13 years now, almost. Oh, yeah. But it's, I think that's great. And, what do you think of Substack?
Nothing's caught my interest. I'm hoping to. Now, I'm glad they're doing it, but most of the books that are coming out, I have a particular interest. Many of them don't. Tom King's book, though, I just blanked on the name now, but the one...
Love Everlasting.
Yeah, Love Everlasting. That's been good and everything. That caught my interest. Some of the others, I'm like, again, Geiger kind of set a high point for me. So it's like,
that's cool.
Yeah, but like, look at like Mark Millar. He's done a lot of creator-owned book. Grant Morrison, Happy. Look what happened with Happy. It became a TV show.
Right. And he announced his Substack. I haven't gotten the details yet, but 2 weeks ago, I guess. Yeah,
right.
They made the big announcement.
I mean,
Um,
I'm happy for them doing that stuff and
yeah,
everything. But I'm just saying that doesn't catch my interest. But I'm not against them existing. Let them exist. It's like the people doing crowdfunding comics. Let them do it if it means doing it. I mean, the one I keep on always looking at was crowdfunding is I don't know if you heard of it. Common America,
no,
great book. Great
no,
book. Very much a very well written. Constantly comes out. Great. And these guys get up to 3 books a year, and regularly, and it's just like wow. Now, unlike others who take forever to get them out, but I'm not going to name names.
yeah. No, you're
But,
right about that. And I mean, I can appreciate some people, not yourself and not me,
mm-hmm.
that are like, hey, Substack, that seems kind of unfair. It's really the one percenters that are really getting the
Eh,
opportunity with Substack, and that's true. But
right.
it's grant money. And listen, I would. It doesn't surprise me that someone would say, I don't like everything that's coming out through
Oh
Substack
yeah.
because they are obviously passion projects. They're
Mm-hmm.
going to be even more selective in terms of possible readership, but
Exactly.
but that's great that the creators are getting to do books that maybe Image would have passed on even,
Mm-hmm.
let alone DC and Marvel, and again they own it completely. Oh, that's it.
Exactly.
That says it's unfortunate that it's
Yep.
not open as much to artists. Well, it depends
That is true.
on the artist, because honestly, we haven't set a date yet, but Kari Randolph and I
Mm-hmm.
intend to talk, and Ilsa, is as oh, that's funny. Nerdette says it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Ilsa's going to be the next hit girl. I've been saying the same thing, Nerdette.
Yep.
I believe that Ilsa is that one project that everyone goes, holy shit, look
Yep.
at this, because the style is already there.
Mm-hmm.
Her stuff is so great, and
Oh yeah.
and really, she is like a Mozart, and that is
Mm-hmm.
not an exaggeration, because she's self-taught. And really, I don't know if you
Wow.
know her. Have you had her on yet, Robert?
I have not. I have not. I should.
Well, I mean, and also obviously European
Mm-hmm.
guests
Oh
are,
yeah.
you got to
Oh yeah.
consider
Oh,
the
yeah.
schedule. So,
Right. But and like I said, I've had some other creators on. I've had Philip Kennedy Johnson. I've had him on.
wonderful, good dude,
Aaron Lepresti. I've had him on.
good
And
dude.
I mean that's the way I am. Is I'm like a person who lets them on drama free. Let them talk about their books, and I try to avoid drama. I had Ethan a couple years ago on. I've had Doug Tenaple on years ago, and Mike Millar again a few years ago. But I mean, now when I have them on nowadays, it depends on how things are going. But I would always make clear we're here to talk comics, nothing else. And I would love to have Stephanie Phillips on. I would love to
Love
have.
Stephanie.
Oh yeah, Nerdette has had Stephanie on. She is a great person. The fact that she gave up being in a college professor because she has all that smarts to go into comics because she loved doing that more because she mentioned that on that interview. It's like wow. And Dan Jurgens. She's had on Dan Jurgens. I've been trying to get him on, and
Dad's lovely, good
yeah,
dude,
great guy.
Tom and I were just talking about, or no, excuse me, Jason Inman. I had Jason
Mm-hmm,
Inman on last week, and
mm-hmm,
Jason has a crowdfunding campaign going for his next
mm-hmm.
comic, and he actually got Dan to do a variant cover for him.
Oh,
So
nice. Oh yeah, but I
yeah,
mean, now obviously there's been highs and lows in comics. Obviously, we've always had
always
the
will be.
yep, always will be. What would you say was your comic Vietnam? Like the tough point where you had to choke through on
Well,
comics. You're like, it's going to get better. It's going to get better, and eventually did.
well, I mean, it was. I mean, and I don't know if this is the same for a lot of people. I would assume so. But
Mm-hmm.
coming out of college and you're in your 20s, you don't
Mm-hmm.
have a ton of money, so
Mm-hmm.
that was one thing. But and really, it didn't occur to me to go to libraries and keep up that way.
Yep.
But I will say that truly the Image generation kind of turned me off,
Right.
because it was more about art
Yep.
and less about story, and it
Agreed.
showed. And
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, it was like you're that guy in high school during study breaks that was this amazing artist.
Mm-hmm.
He got free reign, and there were these amazing splash pages and
Oh
double
yeah.
splash pages and beautiful art, but the stories kind of sucked. And
Exactly.
Clone Wars kind of turned me off.
The
Um,
marketing taking over for that one.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was kind of, comics became like baseball cards, where it was more important for the 3D image on the cover and the foil
Mm-hmm.
wrap and all that
Yeah.
bullshit. And it's like, I just want to read a good story. And even then, though, things like Marvels, and it's
Hmm.
funny, this is a lot of Alex Ross output, but
Hmm.
Marvels and Kingdom Come, I would
Yep.
see that stuff. So I'd be like, all right, I'll come back for that. And it was finally in like 98 or 99 when Marvel Knights was happening with Jimmy
Hmm.
and Joe
Oh, yep.
Quesada. And really when Joe and Kevin Smith were doing Daredevil,
Yep.
I'm like,
I
oh,
remember.
and then friends were telling me, hey, it's almost as good as Frank Miller. And it's like, well,
Oh,
you had me.
yeah.
So that was good. And then I was introduced to Greg doing
Hmm.
Batman. I went
Hmm.
to I have a sports radio background,
Hmm.
and I was going to New York to cover a boxing match.
Hmm.
And at the bookstore at O'Hare Airport, the novelization of No Man's Land was out, and Greg had written it. So I'm like, oh,
Hmm.
this, and I read the inside cover, not realizing that it was a novelization. And I'm like, ooh, a Batman novel. And then I
Right.
read the sleeve, and I'm like, well, that sounds cool. Shit, what happened to Gotham City? And
Oh,
now
yeah. Oh,
it's
boy, good.
like war zone, and
Yep.
Batman's doing the best he can, and all that. And so
I
that
love that novel. I have the graphic. I still have the graphic audio version of it.
sure,
Spectacularly well done of that.
oh yeah,
And
that was like a British like production of
not that particular. That one actually, they're called a movie in your mind. Graphic audio, complete full cast, but
oh
it's not done as a radio. It's done as
okay,
a
because
yeah.
there
Oh yeah,
were also
the Superman
I know graphic
Doomsday.
audio. Yeah, I know
Yeah,
that
yes,
company.
yeah.
Yes,
Yep. You were thinking of oh, what's his name? I forget his
well,
name, but the guy who did the
they
Superman
did.
Doomsday.
Yeah, they did that. They did Kingdom Come.
Yep,
They
and
did
currently he's
Nightfall.
currently doing Sandman. He the same director who did those
Oh,
is doing
that's right.
Sandman.
That's right.
Uh,
Yeah, and they did Nightfall.
Dirk
And
Maggs,
that
I
was
think. No, wait, was it Dirk Maggs? I think.
Dirk Manning.
Yeah, Dirk.
No, no,
Yeah,
no, no. Dirk
no,
Maggs. I think you are right.
yeah, Dirk
Dirk
Maggs.
Manning
Yeah,
is a an Ohio
right.
creator. Yes, yes. Excuse me.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, Dirk Maggs had done that, and I remember, I also remember he did Spider Man, and probably because he couldn't get access to the Fantastic Four, he put the Fantastic Four into Spider Man's origins, and
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
it's weird, it's unique, but you could tell this is a guy who was like, I only have one chance to do Marvel. I only get the chance to do Spider Man. I'll fit him in somehow, and
Have you been listening to the new Marvel audio stories? Like Ben Percy did
no, I did not hear that.
Wolverine, and
Oh, I have
he did
not
a
yet. I
whole.
have not. Not since
They're good.
Bradford Audio lost the rights to it. But I will. I'll look into them. But
Sure,
for me though, my comic book Vietnam was, and it was only mostly in the Superman books, believe it or not. And I don't mean anything against the writers themselves. I want to make that very clear. It was during Joe Kelly, Joe Casey, and Steven Seagal's era, the Sear L era. That
sure.
was some of the eras where I'm like, I had to chug through them. I'm like, this does not feel like Superman at all. And then eventually it wrapped up. You had Superman Godfall, and then you had Rucka, Chuck Austin, and Brian Azzarello taking over. And then
Jeff
eventually
Loeb too.
Jeff
I
Loeb.
like
Oh
Jeff
yeah,
Loeb's.
Superman Batman. Yeah.
Well, even before that, when he was
Oh
doing the
yeah.
Superman
I was talking
books.
about after he left. After he left
Oh,
the
okay.
do Superman Batman, the three titles felt a little rough, very rough,
Yeah.
very much like the direction they were going in. You're like, where's this going? And the
You know,
fact, that, yeah,
I was going to say, um, I I agree with you. There are times where I'm not crazy about the new writer that's writing one of my favorite titles. I do
yep,
know though, and I'm sure you do, and I'm sure everyone
hmm
really, even the people that immediately are like this sucks. It's like
hmm
cut them a little slack.
oh
They
yeah,
thought it was a good story at the time.
exactly.
You don't know how heavy, and I don't know if this is the case with Kelly Casey and Siegel, who I love.
hmm
They're great guys.
Oh yeah.
Um, but they thought they were telling a great story at the time.
Exactly. That's exactly what I say. I do
Right.
never hold it against them. Unlike some people, I know there are some people out there who want to hold it against the creators. I don't. I'm always like, guys, they're doing what they feel. No one's intentionally going out to ruin things. No one's going out
Right.
there to make, to destroy the
To
character.
write
They're
a
doing it
bad
because they
story.
feel. Yeah, exactly. They're thinking they're doing a good story. Like anyone out there who complains about Tom Taylor, or that, first of all, Bendis aging up John Kent. I'm still saying holding DC against that
No,
to a
a lot
degree.
of
I'm like,
people didn't like that. I get it, and
yep.
I see both sides. Hey,
Hmm.
man,
Yeah.
I'm pleased to say, and I can say it now,
Hmm.
that Brian told me 6 months before the reveal of
Hmm.
Clark Kent, and he's like, "This is what I'm going to do," and I'm like,
Can we just get over that?
No, I'm like,
Sure.
is that a good
No, no,
idea?
that's what I saw. That's what I saw.
And truly, I mean, honestly, I was in Portland for
Hmm.
Rose CityCon, and
Hmm.
literally, I was there for like 5 days, so I was seeing him every day, and I'm like,
Hmm.
and finally, I'm like, well, making this move, a lot of interesting stories can come out of it. It
Oh yeah.
reminded me of when Spider-Man in Civil War
Yep.
revealed himself, and the screw up on Marvel's point was they put the genie back in the bottle way too soon.
Way too soon. I agree. Even I agree with that.
We should have had dozens of various individual stories of. I mean, we had the great one, and I told Straczynski when I finally got to interview him
Hmm.
when he had when Kingpin found out and
Hmm.
and tried to kill Aunt May, and Peter goes to the prison and puts the web. Either he had webbing on his face, or maybe he was
Or
not
Black Mask, or the Black Mask. I forget. I
something,
forget.
but he beats the shit out of the Kingpin.
Yep.
And it's like, this is what's going to happen to you if any of you jerks come after
Oh,
me.
I remember that.
And exactly. And that was I'm like, this is great. And we need stories like
And
this.
then you had Peter David doing the confrontation between Peter and Jameson, which, believe it or not, would not have happened if it wasn't for him doing a podcast on a Spider-Man website, because they brought up to him because he saw it originally when he did an interview with them. I remember this clearly. He was told, like, when they said, "Oh, we're gonna have Jameson and Peter meet up," and he was like, "No, that's JMS's stuff." Then afterwards, he's like, "Wait, is JMS doing it?" Ask the editors. Nope, he's not touching that the rest of his story. What? So he decided, I'll do it before we put the GD back in the bottle. And that was a great story. That one issue of them in the boxing ring and everything, and he just let Jonah wail on him, was great.
Yeah,
But
it's
all
fun.
because it would have been missed, though. It would have been missed if it wasn't for that interview.
Well, and also it would have been missed if the publishers didn't go, all right, that's a good idea. It might inspire some good stories. My
Exactly.
my my interaction with a creator like that, and I'm very proud of it, was in Invaders that Chip Zdarsky did,
Mm-hmm.
and he especially got into Namor going rogue, and Jim Hammond and Steve Rogers, like, hey man, it's
Mm-hmm.
us. What are you doing? And
Right?
which I love. That is that great. I mean, again, longtime readers, we understand that in or a subtext between
Mm-hmm.
various characters. And
Mm-hmm.
and I asked Chip, I'm like, what does Sue Storm think of all this? And he's like,
Ooh.
I don't know. And I'm like, well, I mean, she's one of the few humans that Namor listens to.
Yeah.
And he goes, that's a great idea. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. I gave you an idea. That's great, Chip.
That's great.
Fantastic. So, but again, it's those, and my favorite kind of subtext is Ben Grimm and Victor Von Doom, who have
Oh, yeah.
hated each other since
Mm-hmm.
college. And as far as they're concerned, decades, it's like your old college jerk that you knew on campus. And it's like, you've been an asshole since day one, you're still an asshole. And that's Ben's attitude towards Victor. And I love that Victor, in the right hands, will call Doom Vic.
Yep.
Because it's like, it's that asshole from school
Yep.
that Reed thought was a really smart guy. I thought he was a piece of shit. And meanwhile, Victor Von Doom is like, it's that stupid jock Ben Grimm who I
Exactly.
hated day one. And that's why it's like, superhero shit and villain aside,
Mm-hmm.
these guys have been at war since they lived in the same dormitory, which
Exactly. Exactly. People gotta remember that. So that's all that stuff that gets forgotten or not brought up. But I want to tell you though, current was Marvel. I feel Marvel has really reached a renaissance with their retro throwback minis they've been doing, like the Maestro, the Symbiote Spider-Man, Silver Surfer Reborn, and everything. I mean,
sure.
how have you been feeling about those particular Marvel books? I mean,
I'll be honest, I haven't been reading them.
oh,
I'm at that weird. It's embarrassing, and then it's partially due to my own interesting need right now
mm-hmm,
to do so many episodes every month. But
mm-hmm,
now I find myself catching up. So
mm-hmm,
it's like, all right, I know in a week or two I'm talking to Jerry Duggan.
mm-hmm.
Let me use my Marvel Unlimited and
Right,
catch up for the
right.
last 6 months. I mean, I love Cantwell, what he's doing with Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Incredible.
Oh yeah.
Everything Chip writes, I'm there.
Oh yeah.
I'm so happy for Chip getting as many writing opportunities and the way that he
Definitely. Like
broke
at
into
DC too, as DC as well.
Yeah.
I've been loving his
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
like the last Justice League Last Ride, what he's been doing with Red Hood, now this Batman the Knight. I am so grateful for his. Chip's been one of those great writers, but I
Yeah.
would just have to say though, I am more impressed that Dan Slott is finally getting to his reckoning war. That I still remember how bad he would. I remember him saying way back when, you do not, when you say reckoning war, you don't just say reckoning war. You gotta say reckoning war. I always remember him say that. And the fact he's finally getting to it, it's both one of those, you are glad he's doing it, but you also partially, there's that little bit of it took a little too long to come out. You know what I mean? It's not in a bad way, but one of those like, whoa, this is what you were planning? It's that double-edged sort of when it takes that
Oh,
long
I
to
like the
develop.
story. I'm
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
I'm really enjoying the story. In
Well, I'm
fact, I
enjoying
think
it
the
too.
next.
I'm enjoying it too. I'm not trying to say it's bad. I'm just saying, there's that little. It kind of comes with the territory when you take that long to come out after you've teased it for that far back.
Well, again, it's I don't know the timing. I don't know if he wanted to plant a lot of seeds. That's what he
Mm-hmm.
told me in his last word balloon that he did a couple
Mm-hmm.
weeks ago.
Ah.
And I trust Dan. I mean,
Yep.
Superior Spider-Man. I mean, again, you can't take this stuff at face value if you're a
Right.
long-term reader, and also, but by the same token, let them tell their story. Let them
Yeah.
kill a character. I mean,
Exactly.
my favorite example is when Hickman, and in fact, I even talked about this recently again, when Hickman killed Johnny Storm in
Oh
Fantastic Four.
yeah.
Now, we all know he's coming back, but give them the opportunity, like a good soap opera, to
Exactly.
have the rest of the Marvel universe react to Johnny's death. And I mean, honestly, sometimes it brings me literally to tears when I
Mm-hmm.
think about like Ben Grimm again. Ben was so beside himself. They had that great silent scene
Oh yeah.
of Thor, Hercules, and the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
And just like Jameson, you were describing with Spider-Man and stuff, Ben just gets to get all of his stress and aggression out, and just they
Mm-hmm.
go ahead and have this big four-guy fight where Ben
Yep.
is just going to beat the shit out of him, and it ends with him crying in the Hulk's chest, and
Right.
Hercules and Thor heads down, solemnly letting him get his anger out and stuff,
Oh
and the
man.
Hulk is consoling Ben Grimm, and that's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, I love that
Right.
about with Ben. And Ben is one of those characters that I think he used to be one of the big stars, and now people have forgotten the greatness he used to have. The ever loving blue eyed thing, the idol of millions.
Dude, Marvel 2-in-1 was always one of my favorite
Mm-hmm.
books in the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when I got Marvel Unlimited, I literally started rereading a lot of that stuff. And
Yep.
it's no, you're right. Ben's great, and that's why again, Slott knows how to write the thing. It
Yep.
was a damn shame that his thing
The
solo
ongoing.
book didn't
Oh
take
yeah.
off
Yeah. Oh,
because
and here's another example of a character who killed off a character. Have you read the new Joker? Have you at least read that, or at least you're aware
I'm
what
behind
happened
on
in
the
it?
new Joker. I have to confess,
Oh,
I love James, but and again, it'd be
you
like,
want me to
oh, I'm
spoil
trying to
then?
get
You want me to
catch
spoil
up.
then? You
Sure,
want me
go
to?
ahead. Okay, yeah,
Bane
it's
is
all right.
still alive.
Who's still alive, Bane?
Bane, and he was
Good.
manipulating everything that's been going on since A-Day. He was the one responsible for A-Day, and it's like this was a
That's
Bane
great.
plan the whole time. It's like Tinian's one who
That's
killed
excellent.
him off, and he brought him back. It's like he had a story to tell. We didn't realize he had a story to tell, and I
Yeah,
like.
I'm gonna miss if I believe James, eventually will walk away from DC and concentrate on his other stuff. And
Oh,
again,
oh yeah, he already said he has. He's just
yeah,
he's finishing
yeah,
up. He's not even writing DC versus Vampire. Wait, is that DC versus Vampires? He just plotted it. Rosenberg is the one doing all the
right,
writing. When he's
right.
done with
That's it.
Joker and his Sandman work that he's going to be doing, he's saying he's walking away from working at other companies in general, other IPs. He said he's
And
walking
good for
away.
him because again, look at all the great stuff he's done for Boom. Look what he's
Mm-hmm.
doing with Substack. I love that horror anthology that he created. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's no, I mean it's I understand and I don't blame these guys.
oh yeah.
It's too bad. But then again, they might, there might come a time years down the road where it's like, oh, I've got an idea I didn't get to. Let me do it.
Exactly. I mean,
I
how
mean,
many times has Morrison left and come back? How many times has he done that? Where it's
right,
like,
and even
oh, I'm
Mark,
done.
yeah, and Mark Miller has done the same thing. So.
Yeah, or even Mark Wade, like he stepped away from the main companies and did other stuff. Now he's coming back.
Well, yeah, there was there was some sort of personality conflict at DC.
Oh,
That
I'm aware of certain. I'm aware of certain personality conflicts. I'm not
um,
surprised on that.
yeah,
I'm glad he's
but
coming
I mean,
back.
but he was doing a lot of Marvel and still does, and I mean, or
Hmm.
enough Marvel occasionally. And
Hmm.
no, World's Finest is fantastic. I got to see it,
Yep.
and it's going to be terrific. Um, I am hopeful that eventually he'll get to do a new run on Superman
I
because
hope so
that,
too. I really
much
do.
like the Flash, that's like a great conversation starter with Mark. And
Hmm.
oh my God, so many great stories and so many great
Oh yeah,
ideas.
I've met him before at a convention, and really great guy, real fun guy. And I
Yeah.
want at one point to go up to him and tell him, "You were right about Man of Steel." I want to tell him that straight up because
Oh
he
yeah.
gave his criticism of it. I was one of those who was defending it, but as it went on with the other movies, there's a lot of stuff that I defended for Man of Steel that I can't defend anymore.
You see, that's interesting because I was in his camp when Man of Steel came out, and I am softer on Man of Steel than I was eight
Well,
years ago,
it's mostly when
whenever
it
it
comes to the
came out.
John Kent stuff. When it comes to the Jonathan Kent stuff, that's the stuff I have to agree with him on. I'm like, I have my issues. I
Yeah.
defended it. Now I can't defend it anymore. Now that I
Yeah.
know the direction
Well,
they were going.
yeah. I mean, honestly, that is, that is something that still drives me nuts
Oh yeah,
about
the don't save
the
me.
well, yeah, we got to hide you, and it's like Kents help people. The Kents are that's the man part of Superman is the
Exactly.
life lessons he learns from the Kents about no man, when the chips are down, we step up and we help people. And that's the life lesson that Clark learns from Jonathan and Martha. And that's gotta be there. It has to be
Exactly, exactly. And I do like it. That's one thing I love about post crisis when Byrne kept them alive. It made them important because I don't know where you stand, Superman. With me, I feel there are three guys. You have Clark Kent of the skies, you have Superman, and then you have Clark when he's around people who are in the know. The people he can still talk about his powers, his problems with. That's the real guy. Superman's what he does when he needs to, and then he puts on an act as Clark. I don't like it when he goes overboard with the disguise as Clark.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
I think the modern take on Clark, and again, this is why I disagreed with Brian Bendis,
Hmm.
is I don't think Clark Kent is a guise. I do think
Oh yeah,
that is
he's
the
the
real
real guy.
Batman. If I may, get Batman is a guise or Bruce is a guise for Batman.
Hmm.
Ever since his parents died, he stopped being a human being and he became
Yeah,
Batman. In the case of Superman, he was raised by Jonathan and Martha as a baby to be
exactly.
Clark Kent. Clark Kent helps people, and I also still believe, and this is my one point that I disagree with Brian,
Hmm.
is he's like, well, now he could be Superman and still have that Clark Kent persona, and I'm like, I don't think people, whether they're close to him or outsiders, Clark Kent can go up to somebody and say, "Hey, I don't get this," or talk on a human being level.
Yeah,
And
but
I think,
Superman, they're going to be hesitant to respond.
right,
They
I say
respond
it's
differently.
like I say it's like you're having an audience with the Pope, and you're
Yeah,
not going to tell the Pope,
you're
I
going to
can't
you're going to
stop,
sugarcoat it.
I can't stop drinking, or I can't stop. I really, I need, as much as you want to be honest with the
Yeah,
Pope, it's like you got to be on your
exactly.
best behavior. Whereas Clark Kent can have a conversation with somebody, and they might
Exactly.
be more honest with him.
Yep.
Yes, I agree. Hominus.
Yep.
Bruce is the mask of Batman.
But
Yes,
I will say this though, and I rewatched the show Beware the Batman recently, and it
sure.
actually brought up something that I always felt. Batman is a balancing act. You have either Batman and Bruce, and you need to keep him in a balancing act for him to be the most effective. If he's too much Batman, which happened in that show when Alfred left, that's when he's more beating up criminals to the point
Right.
where he's the loner. But when you have Bruce too much in control, then, which I think Kevin Smith showed that during his Whining Gyre, he's way too trustworthy. He's way too. It compromises everything about Batman, where he's trying to get too much of a good life. You need that balancing act for
Sure.
Batman to be at his best. So, while I do
I,
agree that, yeah, yeah,
I was going to say, I also, as much of being an interesting story, I was kind of against and still kind of am. I wish Alfred were still around
oh, agreed. I
because
I blame,
again,
yeah, I
I mean,
blame
I
Death
think
Metal for that.
I'm sorry.
I blame the changes going on, that 5G and everything that Alfred was supposed to play a part into. So they decided let's keep it, but then they decided let's keep him dead. It's like
Well, again, I mean, and I'm sure when I'm hitting 60, Alfred will be back.
I
There'll be
hope
a
so.
reason
I hope
for a
he comes back
reboot.
after Dark Crisis. I hope so.
We'll
If
see. We'll see.
yep.
But again, I do think Alfred fills that role that Foggy Nelson fills with Daredevil,
Oh yeah.
where there's one human being. Lois fills this role for Superman. There's
Yes.
one human being they can go to and go. The human being can go to the superhero and say, "You're fucking up. You're doing it wrong."
Exactly.
And you really need a reality check
A Mary
because
Jane to Spider-Man.
yes, exactly,
That's is one thing
exactly.
that Black Cat could never do with Spidey. Black Cat is too much in the mask side of things that she wouldn't call him out on. Same with
Sure.
Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is too much on the super side of things to bring Superman down to earth.
I would
And
agree with that.
yeah, but I do agree with you what you were saying about was Superman. That's why I'm kind of glad when Philip Kennedy Johnson did his future state stuff. He actually had it be where everyone was talking about Superman, but this one girl stands up and talks about Clark Kent and how important he was to her. And it's just one of those cases where it tells you that Kennedy gets it. I think he gets the
We definitely get it.
dynamic between them a bit better than Bendis does. Again, nothing totally against Bendis, but like you said, there's just he looks at it differently in a way that I don't agree with. And
Well, and again, that's great. It's valid, and that's fine. I mean, I mean, you can argue, obviously. I mean, and it's true. Well, that's not Superman. My one caveat was for years when Roberto Aguirre Sacarza
Roberta
was
Aguirre Sacasa, yeah.
Sacasa, excuse me,
Yep.
was
No, I
doing
think that is, yeah.
Marvel Knights Fantastic Four,
Oh, yep.
and the premise was okay, so they go broke and they got to move to, and I'm like, they're never going to go broke.
Yeah.
Reed
What?
Richards is too smart. Um, as Wade himself said, either on Word Balloon or I read it. I know that I agreed with him right away.
Oh, yeah.
Was all he has to do literally is go into a metaphoric closet and be like, "Hey, military, I just created this armor that will improve soldiers, ability to sustain any things. How about $1 billion? Done. Okay, we got money again. Yay!
Wasn't this story meant to be in a way to compromise what editorial wanted Mark Waid to do? And it's like,
Yeah.
we're going to stay on. And then they just put it like, okay, but we're
Well-
going to keep the idea and put it somewhere else.
Well, because they already commissioned the story,
Mhm.
so it was. I can't remember who the artist was.
I think that was at McNiven, or
Oh, could be. Yeah, I think you might be
have
right.
been. Yeah,
So
great
so,
artwork.
yeah, I mean, again, they had to put or they had to, but they paid for the story, so they're going to put it out. But I'm just like, you lost me with your initial premise. I mean, that's the thing. That's the business reason why they put it out.
Yeah.
But from an editorial standpoint, it's like somebody should have been in the room at the summit and saying, I mean, they're not going to go broke. It doesn't make sense.
Exactly. I mean, then there's other cases like, now again, I am not against some of the stuff going on with the ideas of the characters. There's always how it is, but like the stuff going on with this Jace Fox Batman. I'm not against there being another Batman, but I am not a fan of how Ridley's been writing the Foxes at all. It feels like, especially when you do a flashback revealing that Lucius, from the moment Bruce brought on Dick as Robin, saying, and just told Alfred privately, saying, I don't agree with this. This is not right. And he basically makes it clear he's going to undermine Bruce the first chance he gets. I'm like, so you're basically saying this whole time Lucius has been secretly against Bruce the whole time and wanting to cut him off at the knees the first chance he gets? That is not Lucius.
I
get what he was setting up. And for all we know, maybe Lucius got over it that we don't know about. But that's the problem when you do a story like that and not set things the context. I mean, I get, again, we don't know what his story is. He's still doing Jason stuff with the Foxes. Maybe it might end up in a good way by the end. Maybe it won't. Who can say? But it's just one of those cases where I keep on saying, it's not my cup of tea. Am I going to go on a tirade and say they're ruining my characters? No. And I feel
because they're making the smart choice to still give us Bruce's Batman stories alongside Jace. So that's okay. I mean, that was the problem. That was the problem with Marvel when they leaned on the legacy characters, and at the same time, and this is what they say, And
Mm-hmm.
I guess I have to take their word for it. But
Mm-hmm.
they're like, we didn't realize. Nobody stepped back and said, "Wow."
Too much, too fast.
Well, everybody was off. All the main original versions were all off stage at the same time. Tony was, dead, and
Mm-hmm.
they posted the machine for Riri Williams,
Mm-hmm.
and Steve was old, and
Yep.
Sam was Captain
Uh,
America.
Hulk was dead.
Bruce was dead, and so therefore Amadeus Cho was
Yeah.
young Hulk, and it's like it's okay to tell those stories, but you really need to satisfy.
Mm-hmm.
My short answer is always it's not and it's not a negative or what I'm sorry, I'm losing my own words, but essentially um it's fair for anyone that doesn't like what you're doing to say, I'm buying an Iron Man comic. I want to read a Tony Stark story.
Mm-hmm.
I think Riri Williams is a great idea, but
Mm-hmm.
not to put her at center stage. And Tony's dead. And well, and again, this is Brian. Well,
Mm-hmm.
Tony's still there. He's the ghost of the machine. He is not the hero of the story.
Exactly.
Where the guy that did it right was Jason Aaron
Mm-hmm.
when he had Jane become Thor, and we were still
Yeah.
following the Odin son. I love,
Exactly. And I
and
still
but they
use that as a
were,
good example. Yeah,
yeah. I
because
mean, it's like
yeah.
because we still want to follow what's happening to Thor.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Jane as Thor is a really interesting idea, don't dump Thor. And
Exactly.
and again, these companies make these choices, and that's why I wonder,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the death of the Justice League, it's like,
Yep.
okay,
It's
what does
for a
that mean?
story reason. I think it is entirely a story reason. They've already made it clear it's a bit in the future. Williamson say that very clear. So it's basically gonna be like Doomsday Clock and Death Metal. The event's going to happen. The main line's not going to catch up until the event ends. Which, of course, Doomsday Clock took way too long for that.
Well, again, listen,
Yep. Yep.
Jeff is doing TV. Jeff is doing
Oh,
TV
I
and
know. I
movies,
know.
and really, they shouldn't have released it until Jeff finished the story. And
Right.
they were going for the anniversary and all the
Mm-hmm.
other reasons of doing Doomsday Clock when they did it. I'll be
Yep.
honest, I have to say, as intrigued as I was with the initial start of Doomsday Clock, I didn't think Jeff stuck the landing. I really don't.
I felt he did, but I get why you don't feel that way. I can believe it because I do feel some of the stuff currently going on at DC by that point, he had to reference or change. Like what happened was the Legion. He had to totally then take out the original Legion and say, oh, they're gone, so that Bendis, his Legion, can show up at the very end,
But even the actual center story
Mm-hmm.
of this like mounting tension, and then we get this conversation between Superman and Dr. Manhattan, and it's like,
I
all
think
right,
it's simplicity he was going for. I think he was going for simplicity, but that's just me. But
again, people love it, awesome.
mm-hmm.
I just want to, if anything, I want to show, like, because sometimes people are like, wow, you don't say anything negative about anybody, and I'm like, no, I don't, because my podcast philosophy is,
Mm-hmm.
you're a guest in my living room.
Exactly.
And the operative word is guest. And you don't
Mm-hmm.
invite someone into your living room to go, hey, thanks for coming. Let me tell you why you suck.
Exactly. Oh, that drives me nuts when I've heard people who keep on saying, like they say, if I'm going to go to here's the prime example I always give. These people want to be like that guy who went up to Rob Liefeld and gave him a copy of
I
How to
was
Tell
there.
a Way. You were there? Oh,
That
yeah.
was in Chicago.
Yeah, and
Oh.
it's just like, oh.
Well, the great thing about that thing was it absolutely blew up in that idiot's face.
Exactly.
Even creators that don't like Rob
Mm-hmm.
came to his defense and are like, hey, fuck you. How dare
Exactly.
you?
But I
Do
bet
that?
you in that moment, he gave him backpacks in his head. He went to bet in the guy's head at that moment when he did it. He probably felt like, oh, yep, I did a good thing. But
Well, and
no.
also to not only that, but to have your friend like videotape it on his phone, or not videotape, but you know what I mean, shoot it on his phone and everything,
Yeah.
and like, wow, I'm really gonna get this guy. It's like, fuck you.
Exactly. But that's
And
my
also,
go-to.
an earlier version of that was Darwin Cook and Chuck Austin.
Mm-hmm.
This also happened in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They were tabled next to each other,
Mm-hmm.
and Darwin had a massive line because it's Darwin.
Yep.
And I mean, he was doing these incredible sketches and stuff. and I saw a guy and his girlfriend
Mm-hmm.
walk up to Chuck Austin, and it's like he's like, "Wow, you really write a lot about what's his face, the Juggernaut."
Yeah.
And Chuck's like, well, yeah, Juggernaut's one of my favorite characters. And the guy's like, yeah, you know nothing about the Juggernaut. I
Oh
can't believe
no.
it. And it was hilarious because the girlfriend is right next to her. She's like, yeah, he's right. You don't know anything about the
Oh
Juggernaut.
gosh.
And Darwin is drawing and hearing this because he's right next to Chuck, and he's like, and it just keeps drawing and keeps looking next to him, like, what the fuck is going on next to him? And they leave, and I'm in line for Darwin, and he's like, I cannot believe the gall some of these assholes have to come up and say that shit. And Chuck's like, yeah, it's happened more than once. And I felt so horrible that I got out of line. Hold on, let me tell the story. I got out of line for Darwin, and I went to Chuck, and I'm like, hey, Chuck, didn't you draw Miracle Man? And he goes, yeah. And I had a backboard I was going to have Darwin draw something on, and I'm like, draw me Miracle Man. And I still have it, and it's this fantastic drawing, and it's my only Miracle Man sketch that I've ever gotten. You can even see, over here and everything. You can see some of my original art on the walls and stuff. Yeah. So, and I never did end up getting a sketch from Darwin, but I'm okay with it because I got that great sketch from Chuck, and I'm like, all right, let me make Chuck Austin feel a little better and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and
I mean, yeah.
We talked about it when he's been on Word Balloon, and he's like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed his Action Comics run, especially when I hear the behind the scenes stuff about how they offered him. He said no. They offered him. He said no again. They offered what it is. Like, do whatever you want. From what I understand, that's what happened.
Well, and it's a shame that they didn't let him finish his story.
Oh yeah,
because I kind of liked how Lana, for a moment, didn't come between Lois and Clark, but she understood Clark at a moment that Lana understood Clark at a moment that Lois did.
Right. Now, there's only one moment I did not care was how he took what Ruka had done with what Superman heading off to save Lois when she got shot, and try to juxtapose saying why he slowed down was because he was thinking about what Lana said. That's the only problem I had, because it just felt a little like that. And so you're saying that he was thinking about Lana, that's why he was too slow to get to Lois, and I'm just like, I mean, again, that's the one issue, but that does not take away from the rest of it. It was
I don't even remember that. That's funny.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the title of your thing, Shooting the Shit with John Siuntres.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
That's exactly what we're doing, because that's what I like to do on these type of stuff. Either I'm doing an interview or I'm shooting the shit, and that's why I figured since you're a comic fan, let's just shoot the shit.
Sure.
But yeah, now, what is a creator you've been trying so hard to have on but still have not?
I'm trying to think of anybody living because I didn't try that hard to get Stan Lee. If it had, I mean, I kind of, I'm a Star Trek fan. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. And I kind of believe that Ferengi philosophy of the river will provide, because even, so wait, let me answer your question. Let me think of somebody that I really want to, because for the longest time, it was just Steranko. I will confess that I'm not crazy about some of his political views of late, but that's okay. And also, I try to separate the art from the arts. My one, if I may, and forgive me, everybody, if you lean towards the Comicsgate people and you sympathize with them or whatever.
No, I don't. But yeah, go ahead.
And I don't either. And my caveat is, and this is what disappoints me with those in Comicsgate that I did become friendly with. It's okay to disagree. Don't go after and attack the people who you disagree with. That's where I draw the line. I agree. And Jim never did that, Steranko, but Jim was elusive, literally. I mean, I really started to get to know him 16 years ago because of younger creators that he was friendly with, and I got the chance to hang out with him. And he's like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I do this podcast, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, someday. Finally, in 2019, I believe, definitely pre-pandemic, he was at Terrificon, and I got to moderate an hour. And I'm like, fine, I got my white whale. I'm very happy. So there really isn't anybody that I am dying to talk to that I haven't yet. And again, there are a lot of great creators. In fact, there was a list earlier in the chat.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Patrick Gleason was on that list. Pete
Oh, yep.
Tomasi was on that list.
Yep.
I mean, Pete
Jorge
for the longest
Jimenez.
time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Jorge Jimenez was the other one.
Oh, okay. Jorge Jimenez, not Phil.
Jorge. Yeah.
Okay. It didn't occur to me. I should probably have Jorge on. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
Patrick and I have had great conversations at conventions. Tomasi, for the longest time, especially coming from being an editor, was like, well, when it's okay with DC, it's okay with me. And in the when it was still the DiDio years,
Mm-hmm.
it was just tough to pin him down. But finally, he did do a couple panels that I moderated at Terrificon, and in my opinion, that counts because it's getting to ask these guys questions. So at least Pete's been on in that capacity. I just had Christian Alme on, the great inker, and he's a massive Pete fan. And in fact, Pete got him that Wonder Woman Black and Gold story that he just did a couple of months ago, which was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Christian did everything on that. But I do believe that it is going to be easier moving forward to get Pete on. And I'm a massive Pete fan, both as a writer and an editor.
Oh, I tried to get him on too when he was at a local convention. I asked him, like, I have a show. Would you mind coming on? And he basically said, like, it was just getting out of pandemic and everything. And he was just like, someday, but not right now. Not now. I'm not doing any interviews. And I'm like, that's fine.
Oh, that's interesting. Myself in comics says George might not be fluent in English. Every time he talks to his audience, it's always in Spanish. So that's a good point.
That's true. That is a good point. Yeah.
You know,
here's a good question. Do they have his own YouTube channel to show those panels? Terrificon.
No, they don't. But again, they're on my feed. Well, the audio is on my feed.
Right.
I don't know if they videotaped that. Got it. Well, one panel in particular was a Robin panel, and it was Steely, Pete Tomasi, Mike Barr, and Denny O'Neil, and Jim Starlin. All five of them.
Oh, right.
And it was great because, and man, I'm so fortunate that I got to have a few conversations with Denny O'Neil before he passed away. Because what a great guy. B, what a great writer. C, what a great character. And he's like, I never liked writing Robin. So and he's like, he goes, you got this 12-year-old kid in orange and yellow, or in red and gold and green, and he's, Batman's in the shadows, and it's so stupid. And let's face it, he's a target for the crooks to shoot at.
Boy hostage.
Yeah, exactly, the boy hostage. And Mike Barr's like, yeah, I didn't either, and Starlin agreed. And Steely and Tomasi are writing great Damian stories and other stories. And also, I could just imagine some 6-year-old kid in the audience going, but I like Robin.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man, what are you doing? But it was hilarious. It was this great, kind of rousing panel of all these old timers. Like, I hated Robin. And it's like,
right. Speaking of which, one panel I've heard the audio for it, but I would love to have a video for it. Not from you, but in general. Remember when DC used to post their panels they used to do? There was this one. Yep. It was right when Final Crisis started. I've seen images of it. It was that one bit where that guy dressed as Orion walked right up and went, "Roar! I would like to have a word with Mr. Morrison." And Grant's like, "You can have it, Sonny. I want to see how that played out."
Oh, wow.
I've seen the image of him holding on to Grant ready to pound him. And it's just like, I want to see that. I've been looking for videos everywhere. No one's ever recorded that battle. And it's like,
I don't think there was video.
Yeah, and I'm just like, funny. I know, because it's just one of those moments where you're just like, what happened? You hear it, and you're like...
Well, I remember somebody really angry at Grant, and I don't remember the full context of what happened to repeat it, but like the guy got really angry about something, and Grant's like, don't tell... And it almost was kind of a race thing, and Grant's like, don't tell me, man, I'm Scottish. We're like the lower class... UK, country that gets shit on all the time. I know what it is to be a second-class citizen, and I understood Grant's passion, and he even apologized at the end of the panel and said, "Hey man, I'm sorry, I got heated." My favorite DC Nation thing was, and it was such a classic, like, and it was great. I'll tell the story, and really, you get it, like the crowd, especially.
Right.
But the guy's like a massive Wonder Woman fan, and he's like, on one page, the eagle was there on her chest, and another page it was just red, and Dan Didio's like, well, sometimes somebody in production misses something like that, or a color is screwed up, things happen. But the guy's like, I mean, where's the consistency? And the guy
Oh.
wouldn't get off the stage, like the mic, and people are like, shut up, sit down. They answered your question, and it was great, and it was on that DC Nation thing. I have
Right.
a feeling there were things like that in the Orion thing where it's like, I don't know, they yanked him down. And
No,
it's
no,
like,
no. In that case, though, that was meant as a joke because Orion
of course
just
it
got
was.
killed off in Final Crisis. So
Sure.
the joke was the character of Orion
Right.
is pissed off, but
Right.
it was a
I know, I
joke.
get it.
It was a joke.
But for whatever reason, all that handful of like DC Nations, they
Yeah,
took him down, and that's a shame because
it is. It
they're
is.
fun. They're fun.
Yep. But speaking of which, speaking of this, I actually was instrumental. I was specifically in getting the female Dr. Light her resurgence for a while because I went to I remember it was Dwayne McDuffie was just coming on to Justice League. I had emailed him, he always had his emails open and asked him, was he going to do anything with Dr. Light? No. I went to a panel. Actually, no, I got my orders mixed up. I went to a panel first and suggested to Dan DiDio, like, hey, female Dr. Light, you can do anything more? He points to me saying, look in Justice League. She'll be in there. Then I emailed him. He said no. She ended up in Justice League. I met him at a comic convention a year before he died. He was at Motor City Comic Con. I brought that up to him, and he actually clarified, well, the thing was, when you emailed me, I wasn't told to do it. I emailed him almost right after the convention, and he said, I wasn't told. Then afterward, I got word from the DO saying, put her in. And thanks to through him putting her in, and eventually when he left, Robinson took over and kept utilizing her because he liked the character so much. And I met Robinson and talked to him about that too. He loved working on the character as well. And in a way, it's through me suggested the deal, and then Dio making that statement and saying, I better make sure I'm not a liar, So it's like one of those cases.
Where is the female Dr. Light these days?
She's going to appear with the Dark Crisis stuff. She was in Generation Shattered. She was in one of the main characters of that. Yeah. So and I'm seeing her. She's on that funeral cover. She's on the group shot cover and some of the other.
Okay. I didn't notice her. Very good. That's
good.
Yeah.
So because like I said, she's one of my favorites, and I felt she was done so dirty in Green Arrow. But I had Judd Winnick on recently, and he finally explained to me what happened. He was tasked to do that. Some other creator was supposed to come on, give her a new name, so she was no longer tied to the other Dr. Light, moved on from there. But it fell through, so it made it look like almost like Judd had something against the character when he didn't. And eventually, then again, thanks in part to me asking it, Dwayne fixed the character, and then Robinson did more with her. But it's just one of those cases where character got completely derailed in a horrific way that was meant to be resolved elsewhere that never happened. And but yeah, it was just one of those. That's one of those cases I will never forget. That stuff that sticks with me.
Well, when it's your favorite character, I understand that.
I'm
a classic. I don't mind that Nick Fury Jr. And that the fact that the 616 has a Nick Fury that matches the same.
They did it organically at least.
But that said, and it's funny that he's back in the Reckoning War. But I miss classic Nick Fury because I always loved classic Nick Fury. In fact,
Secret Warriors. I love
it. It's not one of my well, even before that. Really going back to again, Son of Origins of Marvel Comics. That was my introduction to Nick Fury. And no, I've always liked Nick. I like the idea that he knew Cap during World War II. I like the idea that the Infinity Formula kept him young enough. My favorite iteration was in the Max series of Punisher.
Oh yes,
when he's Old Fury, and I mean that Max Fury series that Ennis did. I enjoyed that. I won't deny it, but also in the Punisher in particular. And, when Doug Brathwaite was drawing the Punisher and Bill Reinold was inking it, Bill's a local guy, and I asked him to do me a classic Nick Fury, and he's like, "Do you want Fury in the Shield action suit, or do you want Old Man Nick Fury?" And I thought for a minute, I'm like, I want old man Nick Fury in the Shield action suit. And it's great. And he got me this great looking, and he put a trench coat over the action suit,
Mm-hmm.
but he's kind of in like a Neo Matrix sort of pose with
Right.
guns blazing.
Mm.
And it's great because it's like old man Nick Fury, but he's still a badass.
Oh
And still
yeah.
get, I mean, that's why I loved Dark Knight Returns in
Mm-hmm.
particular. And maybe as I'm getting older, although I mean I was young at the time,
Right.
both when I asked Bill to do this was 15 years ago or younger. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I like the idea that they can be senior citizens and still capable.
Exactly.
That's one of the reasons why I've loved the Johns, James Robinson, and Dale Eaglesham, and everyone who did JSA back in
Mm-hmm.
the day. My buddy Doug.
Oh, that's why I love the JSA in general about it.
Yeah,
And
I
now
mean
you have
it's
Catwoman, Lonely City. That's pretty much the the Dark Knight Returns for Catwoman. You have
yes,
Ninja Turtles: Last Ronin is pretty much the Dark
yeah,
Knight Returns.
and actually Batman Catwoman. God, that Christmas special
Oh yeah.
that
Oh,
John Paul started and
the others finished.
Mitch finished and everybody else. God,
Yeah.
that whole slow trajectory of Bruce and Selena
Yep.
getting older, and poor Bruce, like really
Yep.
at the end being
And
kind
then
of
Selena's ending being such a pull the rug out from under her kind of an ending, which is like, you're not even doing it right. It's
Yep.
like she.
Oh, I
I'm
love it.
like she knew it was going to happen the moment she said that. She knew what was going to happen when
Oh
she
yeah.
said that.
Oh yeah. I love
And
Cliff's. You're right though. I love Lonely City, and I
mhm,
love the story that Tom and Clay are telling as well in Batman Catwoman.
yeah.
That's great stuff. And Catwoman's been over the years, depending on who's writing her and drawing her, had her ups and downs.
Oh yeah.
I loved when Darwin was doing it. I loved
Ram
when
V was doing great stuff.
who was?
Ram V, the recent writer, he's
Oh
been
yeah.
doing.
Oh no. Ram. Oh no.
Oh,
Ram.
he's an incredible writer. He is a phenomenal writer. It's like, where the heck does this guy come out of nowhere doing Justice League Dark, and then
Well,
yes.
and again, it's creator own stuff too.
Oh yeah.
He's Savage
What,
Shores.
the many deaths of oh, what was it
I can't
uh
remember either.
yeah
For me, it was
some,
Savage Shores. I mean,
oh yeah,
it's
that too.
because he circumvented the classic Dracula story and managed to tell it. I You see again as an older reader, tastes change, and I get
Oh
that, and I
yeah.
respect that. But
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of a lot of classic pulp, and a lot of people might look down on classic pulp because, sadly, people like Robert Howard and
Hmm.
William Gibson, who wrote The Shadow, they weren't the most enlightened when it came to people of color. And
Right.
there were a lot of stereotypes of the white savior.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I'm burping. I
you brought
apologize.
up Max. It's all right. You brought up Max Allen Collins. Miss Tree. I love his Miss Tree that he's
Yeah,
done.
but yeah, that's a positive. You're
And
right.
that's a pulp.
But,
That's yeah, yeah.
no, but yeah, my point is though, and I've said this recently to other
Hmm.
creators.
Hmm.
Erica Schultz and I were just talking about this recently.
Hmm.
You can take the good stuff out of in pulp and tell a modern story,
Oh
and
yeah.
instead of it being the white savior, make the white hero a fish out of water who doesn't understand how the locals do it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, things work differently here, and this is
Hmm.
why. And there's a lot of interesting characters. There's a great Robert Howard character that if I had the time and a
Hmm.
great artist to help me, I would
Hmm.
love to explore. And that's Sailor Costigan. And he was a
Oh.
merchant marine
Hmm.
who traveled from port to port, would end up and was a boxer essentially on a boat, and would fight whoever the big champion or big
Right.
brute of the different ports that they
Right.
would go to. And I love that. And I would love to tell stories. Those stories do not age well.
Oh
And
yeah, I bet.
there are aspects of the Shadow and Doc Savage and other.
Or the Spirit even.
Yes, oh, certainly the
Oh, and
Spirit.
don't you remember? I mean, his original sidekick is a oh boy, and but I
Ebony
do
White.
remember.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
but I do remember Jeff Loeb did redo the character when DC had the rights, and he actually did it in a very good way.
yeah, yes, yes. And Darwin, I
Um,
believe, drew that story. Yeah.
I don't think that's exactly what we're talking about here, and tell him. I don't think that's what he's talking about when he's saying that. I think it's more how you handle the character that's white that determines them being a white savior, not so much that just because they're white. It's more like they come in and they save the day and bada bing, bada boom. I think that's where it is, right? what they
Yeah,
define as the white savior.
I don't think you're getting it either.
Yeah,
Tell them 29.
yeah,
Um, Heroes aren't seen because of their color.
yeah.
Mr. Terrific, Black Lady.
This
I don't
makes
understand. I don't
I don't
understand.
get what he's saying. I don't get. I'm starting to lose what he's
But
saying.
it's
How he's
okay. And again, um, yeah, I mean, this is a perception, a
saying.
modern perception of those things. I don't think
Yeah.
they were written to be that way
Oh
either.
no, they were written what was
But
perfectly fine back then. This
right,
was.
I mean, a lot of especially foreign intrigue stories in the 30s and 40s just dismissed other cultures
Oh
as
yeah,
being less than
savages.
less than white culture,
Yeah.
and unfortunately that was kind of a dominant opinion
Oh
for a long
yeah.
time,
I mean,
and it
it's like the
really
whole
has.
thing. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's only been, I think, honest efforts like the Peace Corps and
Hmm.
other things that at least the United States has tried to do to understand cultures, and also help them. I mean, you don't say third world anymore; they're developing
Right.
nations. And
Exactly.
it's like, okay, they're developing nations. They don't have access to some of the things we have. And again, it's whatever. Oh, that's I agree with myself in comics. The
Hmm.
samurai movie with Tom Cruise is an
Oh
example of
yeah.
that. Yes, yes.
Definitely. Now I was say now I will also say this. It's like when people keep on saying, "Oh, they're race changing a lot of the characters that were traditionally white." It's like, well, that's because a majority of characters were white because they want to still cater to, like when they were making comics, they still wanted to cater people in the South who probably would have read that, among
Hey,
other multitude of reasons. I'm just listing one reason, and
um,
yeah,
who was I just talking to? And man, again, I feel like a jerk saying that I don't remember.
no, no, it's
Oh,
all right. You have
it
to.
was what it was Susan Eisenberg, Wonder
Mhm.
Woman.
Oh
We were
yeah.
talking about who I love. She's great. I love
Oh
her.
yeah.
Terrific. But we were talking about the JSA cartoon movie,
Hmm.
and it was great to see Wonder Woman taking a leadership role
Hmm.
in that cartoon, as she would have, especially the way she's depicted now. Go
Hmm.
back to the original All Star
She was the
Comics.
secretary.
Yes, and also literally, hey, I'm cleaning the headquarters while the men are off doing a mission. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, joy boy. Yeah.
Well, again, these were comics that were written for little boys, and back
Two
then,
girls.
well, really, they didn't. For whatever reasons, and again,
Exactly.
times change, and the characters are strong enough to adapt to modern sensibilities, and you can rectify it very simply.
Oh yeah,
Very
very much so. I mean, that's why I loved the He-Man Revelations. I know there's a lot of people who feel it's. I'm one of those who like. How many of the people who are complaining are doing it because they legitimately had a problem, and how many of those who were just looking back with nostalgia goggles at the old stuff and not even adjusting to it? Because me, I watched the old cartoon. I watched the
well,
2000 series. I read the recent DC comics that Rob David worked on. I would love to get a chance to sit down with Rob David and talk to him about that stuff because what I saw in Revelations matched up with what he did in in the DC comics. Now, granted,
okay.
the DC comics were a bit darker than what they did in Revelations, but it was like it was very well done. But I see people saying, "Oh, they did this and that." I mean, first of all, and this goes to a lot of things. How much are you going to blame marketing on intent of the creators and not just the marketing dropping the ball? And how much of it is going to be a case of where you guys were in the expectations and it didn't cater to it? And then how much of it is, in the case of He-Man, you guys just been building up this outrage for a year because of certain YouTubers, and you're not going to let it go. It's
Yeah.
you can't win. You can't win.
Well, again, certain fans have agendas, and that's
Yeah,
take them or leave them at face value. And I choose to
oh, I
leave
agree.
some of them.
And I choose to leave them too, except when it comes. The only time I don't is when it comes back to bite me, and I'm treated like you're not a fan of He-Man if you're liking this. It's like, what do you
Who
mean? I can
who
prove.
cares what anyone else thinks of your
Yeah,
opinion? Who the
exactly.
fuck cares? I
Yeah.
I truly, that's again. Well, you're not. It's like that's whatever.
Yeah, I mean, my Southern Comic makes a good point. Netflix was in charge of the trailer, not the He-Man team.
Sure.
Exactly, and so they
Well,
made it look like He-Man's going to be a big part of Part One. Oh, he really wasn't.
well, I mean, they want people to walk in the door And
Mm-hmm.
also, yeah, I mean, Kevin was telling a story and telling it his way. It's my complaint on a lot of people when they critique a 6-part story and they're yelling at what happens in issue 1 or issue 2, and it's like,
Exactly.
that's act 1.
Exactly.
Act 1 has to throw the status quo in some sort of crisis
Mm-hmm.
so that we can get back to, and
Yes.
then they save the day in the final act. And it's,
Exactly.
you got to let your creators tell their story and not judge them on the first 1 or 2 chapters. And that, I mean, I Casada years ago at
Mm-hmm.
one of his Cup of Joes was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, comics are like TV shows because we come out and it's chapter by chapter to tell a story. And I'm like, no, it's not the same, because we have to wait 30 days for each chapter if we're
Exactly.
lucky. And it's, I go, and this is prior to binge watching and putting an entire season or half season up front. It's like, we got to wait 30 days, in comics, and in TV, it's only, we only have to wait 7 days. So,
Exactly.
so we know we're going to get a resolution even on a 2-parter when the next episode airs next week and everything. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's like it is different, and
Oh, it
that's
is very
I'm, I'm,
different.
a, I'm a big trade guy first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost. I want to read the whole story.
Yep. Oh, I very much am the same way. And funny enough, you mentioned the Cup of Joe. Another one that, again, I don't mean to toot my own geek card, but you remember it was Marvel Zombies, right? And
Yeah,
I remember asking them specifically one time because I know it was a big glitch and error you had in one of the Spider-Man in Marvel Zombies Dead Days. You see a moment where you see up on the helicarrier Black Cat. But when you saw the Marvel Zombies versus Army of Darkness, which in the moment that's set before that moment on the helicarrier, you see Iron Fist punching to a zombified Black Cat. So I asked that. What did he reply with? Oh, that was Felicia's twin sister Felicity, who was Nightcat. And believe it or not, it's on. There's an official wiki and everything for White and Felicity Hardy Nightcat on the official Marvel wiki. I'm like, what? And it connects right back to that interview. I'm like,
you should have gotten a no prize for that.
I should have, but the fact that it's there and it's like, I mean, have you ever had a moment like that as well, where you brought up something in a question and it ended up sticking somewhere? Just
Well, like I said, I mean, no, my closest thing was the where's Sue Storm in the Invader
yeah.
story. Well, and also, God, I forget. I told Fraction something,
Mm-hmm.
some story idea, and he's like, "Oh, I got to write that." I'm like, "Feel
Right.
free." Well,
Yep,
my favorite actually is when the whole should Superman have the red trunks or not? Which,
ah,
oh God, oh,
I
like
say keep the trunks, and
what's
I
that?
would give. Yeah, yeah. Sorry.
I'm a fan of the trunks as well. Well, it was just literally, well, two things. One, sadly, and especially since circuses have gone the
Circus
way of the
strongman.
dinosaur.
Yeah,
Yeah, but exactly now, and acrobats as well. More so acrobats, that they would have leotards, and they would have like those kind of looking shorts as
yeah,
part of their leotard. So I do believe that even in the case of the circus people, but definitely in the case of the art, it was to like break up the blue, that they
yeah.
just threw that red in there and everything. But I told Bendis he should have, especially for Action 1000, there should have been a story of Superman going through the fortress and looking for something. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, like opening drawers, and it's like, oh, there's that ray gun. Here's the Phantom Zone projector I used to send Jack Sir back to the Phantom Zone.
Right.
Here's, whatever. And finally, it ending with, oh, there they are, and him having the red trunks on. And I thought, and he's like, God, where were you when I was writing this goddamn thing? And I'm
Yep.
like, well, yeah, man.
Funny you mentioned
So
1000. If there's one downside was the Bendis coming on and Jurgens leaving. Jurgens just revealed recently he would have, if he did it 1001, he would have brought back Conduit. And I'm like, no, we
well,
never
that's,
got
I mean,
Conduit back.
hey, Pete, Pat Gleason, and Jurgens were
Mm-hmm.
finally doing a great job, because I'll be honest, even when Jeff Johns was writing New 52 Superman,
Oh yeah,
I hated it. I hated it.
yeah. Oh, and
I
the only thing I liked was the idea of the solar flare, the idea of it, how it was used.
Yeah, that was
No,
interesting. But everything about that run especially Lois revealing
Well, no, that
Superman's
was after he left.
identity.
That was after. No, that was after he left. That the lowest revealing stuff
Well, I
was
realize that, but I'm
genius.
saying that was part
Right.
of the era, and
Yeah.
Jeff was still part of
Oh yeah.
that era.
Oh yeah.
That was pre Tomasi Gleason
Yeah.
Jurgens, and it's interesting because also Jurgens has been brought on books. It seems to me to
Hmm.
fix things, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
I
Um,
think he's done that a few times with various characters and
you
books.
got Firestorm during New 52. I
I think
liked what he did.
even Nightwing. I think he even did that
Right.
on Nightwing, and
Yep.
yeah, wasn't it Nightwing that he
Oh
was
yeah.
doing?
Yeah. The Rick Grayson stuff when
Right,
Lobdell
right,
left.
right, and yeah, I mean, and truly, I mean, I'll say it too. I have not been crazy about Scott's DC work.
I've a friend, Nerd Dad, who was on here. I think she's already left for the night. She is a huge fan of his Red Hood stuff.
Okay,
So,
you
and I'm,
know
yep.
what I didn't like about Red Hood and the Outlaws was
Hmm.
again they just. I mean, I like Jason, and I like Jason as Red Hood. I think it's
Hmm.
very interesting. I didn't like the way they changed Starfire.
Oh, no, oh, so the first one I would agree with. What she preferred was the one with Bizarro and Artemis. Now that I think is when
Yeah,
Scott was really on his A game, when he actually had a good Trinity that actually felt like a unique, like the Trinity, the DC Trinity,
right.
but
Oh, absolutely,
inverted.
100%. No, and I
But yeah,
agree with you.
there's this question that was asked: do you prefer soft cover trades, hardcovers, and any favorite omnibuses?
You know, it's funny. I don't have any buy, if that's
Oh,
the
I have
proper
tons of them.
but because I always, as much as I would love to have them, it's like I feel like they'd cut off my circulation in my lap while I was reading them, and also B, man, that price point. I'll tell you what I love. My favorite format for those kind of books were the essentials and
Mhm.
the DC showcases
Oh
of
yeah,
a phone book, black
the
and
phone
white,
book size. Yep.
news rag,
They don't do those
because
anymore, do they?
no, I just want the stories, and that's why I do Marvel Unlimited.
Hmm.
I haven't done DC Universe in the same way.
Oh, it's been really good. They've been having a lot of free books on there, especially like the Harley Quinn Eat Bang Kill tour. The Peacemaker they just did with Garth Ennis. A whole bunch of them have been, on there, and then they eventually sell them out on the
Yeah.
yeah. And there's the Harley Quinn Eat Bang Kill. It didn't break the top 50, but it was still in the top 100.
Well, I liked, and I didn't realize that it started online when Seeley was doing the Robbins book,
Oh yeah, that too.
and I didn't
Yeah,
realize that started as a
and the
DC.
King Shark book.
Well, did King Shark also start
Yeah,
online?
yeah.
I didn't realize that either. There
Yeah,
you go.
in fact, I think it's two issues there equals one issue there
Yeah,
because
that's right.
it's 12 issues on that. Now, the Robbins one, it's each individual, all 6 issues. But King Shark, it's 12 online, but 6 in print. So I'm pretty sure that's combining them. Oh, Seeley, I've been trying to get Seeley on as well. Every time I start to, though, it falls through because usually he gets burnt out very quickly. Like, I'm going to take a break from interviews again. It's like, oh.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I was again very fortunate to start Word Balloon when
Hmm.
Seeley and Mike Norton and Scotty Young were all up
Hmm.
here in Chicago and were just cutting their teeth.
Oh,
And yeah,
yeah.
Scotty was a little ahead of the rest of them, doing
Yep.
Human Torch and some of the other stuff that he was doing. But we became friends early, and
Yep.
15 years ago, 16 years ago, and
Yep.
yeah, I mean, no, and truly, Tim and
Yep.
I mean, and Scotty too. Scotty moved. Scotty moved to Kansas City, so
Hmm.
I only see Scotty when I see him. I just had him on the show a couple weeks ago, but
Yep.
no, Tim and Mike are really, really good friends. In
Oh
fact,
yeah.
that logo that I use for Word Balloon with me
Mhm.
surrounded by all the comic
Yep.
book stickers and stuff, Tim Seeley drew that. Uh,
Nice.
so yeah, no, Tim's a brilliant writer. He's a brilliant artist. He's one of the best
Hmm.
concept creating
Oh
ideas
yeah.
guys out there, and puts as much effort into his DC and Marvel stuff as he does his creator own stuff. But
Definitely.
also, if they tell him no, he's like, it's your
Oh,
characters,
exactly.
whatever. But he
I
always
mean, his
manages to
He-Man
find a way.
stuff too. His He-Man stuff has been very good. His
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
the
Oh
Master
god,
of the Multiverse. Love that.
he and his brother Steve Seeley are huge He-Man fans,
But
and
that
they
was a
even made
brilliant one. Yeah.
that art of the Masters of the Universe
Mm-hmm.
coffee table book. They
Mm-hmm.
were the guys behind that,
Oh,
the
yep. Yep.
creators that was behind it. No. It's, I mean, and again, there's my generational difference because I'm not. I was trying to have dates and be a teenager when He-Man happened, and my college years as well. So
Yep.
that's, I mean, I
Speaking of
respect
creative
He-Man.
work,
I was too old for He-Man.
speaking of creative work, if you don't mind my showing off, I've had a bunch of commissions based off of my own original characters. If you don't mind my
Nice.
showing them off. Yep. Hold on.
Sure.
This one is my character Jewel. Let me get a good image of. No. Oh, I'll just go through them and
Sure.
I'll. But yeah, this is Ale Garza doing this one. Angel
Okay.
Medina.
You'll
For
forgive
free.
me. My video is frozen right now, so
Oh,
I can't see it. When it starts moving again, I'll let you know. So hang on to the
right,
images until I can see them. Unless obviously you want the fans to watch them as well.
right,
God,
right,
everyone's
right.
asking and making great comments. I really appreciate the
Yep.
conversation that's happening in the chat.
Right, but I said this is Ale Garza. Do you see this one? This one
Not
right
yet.
here?
No, I'm still frozen, buddy.
All
That's what I'm saying. I'll be able to tell you because it's happening on my end. So I'll be able
right,
to
all
tell
right.
you when I can see stuff again. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm on my backup computer,
No problem. No
and then
worries. No
it's a
worries.
slow processor sometimes. But right now it's still frozen. So I'm glad you
So,
could at least hear me. Thank God for
yep.
the cloud.
Oh, yeah, your
Um,
video is perfectly fine. Your video on
good.
my end is perfectly fine.
That's good.
So,
That's good to know.
yep.
But yeah. So what else can we talk about
Uh,
until my video unfreezes
until
on
your
my end?
video catches up. Well. Okay. In this was the crowdfunding books actually? Is there any ones that you feel have been standout examples for you that you've really liked? That you have you
Oh, the
gotten any?
crowdfunding books.
Yeah. I mean, for me,
Well, go ahead, and
I'll
then
just use
as I'm
plot
thinking.
holes as one. John Gordon Murphy.
That's cool. I'm not reading it.
Oh.
But well, first of all, I'm very excited for the Kolchak Night Stalker anthology that's
Ooh.
because I'm a longtime Kolchak fan. My buddy
Mm-hmm.
Steve Bryant, I usually like his creator-owned stuff that he puts
Mm-hmm.
out. Downstate Illinois artist and writer. What else do I like? Oh God, now I'm blanking on. Damn it! Now I'm even blanking on the creator. Sci-fi book with a woman in the lead.
Ooh.
Ron Randall's book, and I can't think of Ron's book.
Oh.
Trekker.
Yeah, which he's been doing for a long time,
Yes,
and
he has. And I'm a big fan of Trekker. I think that stuff's really good. I loved when Greg and Rich Buckler did their steampunk book, and I can't remember the name of that right now. I'm not near my bookshelf, or I'd name check some of these books.
right.
Um,
Well, for
hopefully,
me,
it's clearing up soon. Go on.
yep. For me,
Oh, there you go. I can see Ali Garza and Jewel. Very good.
Yep. And then this is. Do you see Angel Medina?
There we go. Yes, I see angels. Yep.
That was a free sketch.
Nice.
This is Art Balthazar's.
Sure.
Craig Rose. How do you say his name? Rose?
I don't. I always thought Russo, but I have no idea.
Russo.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's spelled. It's always.
Yeah.
Yep. George Perez did this.
That's great.
I gotta say, when I heard the news for George, he's still alive, but I cried the whole day because that's how much his work's meant to me. All the stuff he's been involved with. And I have not cried that hard as I did for a creator. Just the diagnosis alone caused it. It just.
Well, again, we make these attachments with these writers and artists, and until the worst happens, sometimes we don't. We wonder. I mean, Marty Pasco was a very good friend.
Oh yeah.
And I'm still very upset that he's not with us anymore. I miss him terribly because I really got to know him on a personal level. But even some of these, I mean, it happens. I mean, these celebrities and stuff, we make them part of our lives. And when the worst happens, or in the case of George, it's a slow march to the inevitable. So sure, we're sad now.
But
God, I just had Scott Koblish on, and he's friends with George, and he got to spend time with George recently, and that's great. And it sounds like, based on anecdotal evidence, that George is making the most of the time he has left, and
which
that's
I'm
great.
grateful for.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
J. Scott Campbell did this free sketch
wonderful,
here.
terrific.
Jeremy Freeman, an inker, did
Oh
this
wow.
one. Yep. Jim Galney. He's done. Oh, gee, I just forgot what the character was called. I'll look up into it, but he did this. The only thing that cost was the paper. He did it for free, except for $5 for the paper.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Amelia Rules.
Honestly,
Amelia Rules is what it was. Amelia
can
Rules.
I'll give a convention tip.
Mm-hmm.
Seek out inkers because
Yep.
inkers will give you amazing sketches
Oh
because
yeah.
they're the finishers. There you
Mhm.
go. Yeah, I mean Bob Almond, who a great Marvel inker, he was selling this great Captain America versus T'Chaka Black Panther
Mm-hmm.
recreation on a white cover, and it was $100, and I'm like sold. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of my favorite recent pieces from the last couple years and stuff. And
Yep.
no, and it's again Bill Reinhold, who can
Mm-hmm.
do it all, is primarily known
Joe
as an inker.
Prado.
Joe,
He,
I love Joe.
oh,
Joe's
I've met him a couple
almost
of times.
Joe and Ron Rice and Yvonne Hayes are such great guys. The three of them.
I got another inker coming up soon. He did a phenomenal job. I'll get when I get to it. But
Okay, but Prado, I
mhm.
love Prado, and I love Rod Rice as well.
Oh yeah.
When we're all in the same town, we absolutely make time to talk to each other,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm so happy for both of them and how
Oh,
their careers are
I've
going.
been loving Joe inking over Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Praise be his name. I love that joke when people make that joke. But seeing him ink over him, and you can see a bit of the Ivan Rice type of, like the parallels with that when he does
Sure.
it over Jose, but it doesn't take away from Jose stuff, like the Batman Lost 66 Lost episode. Love that.
Yeah,
Of Katie Cook.
Katie Cook, sure.
I've loved her stuff.
Oh, she's
Um,
the. I was telling we're recording on or broadcast streaming on Super Bowl night, and obviously
mhm,
we don't give a shit about the Super Bowl.
right.
But Katie, do you remember a couple of years ago her
Mhm.
little and another great creator-owned character, Gronk?
Yep.
When football Gronk was in the Super Bowl, they had the feature with Katie, and Katie's like, "What am I doing in a Super Bowl like segment?" And it was pretty funny. She's
Yep.
great. I smart lady.
This is Nate Lovett.
Oh, nice, very good.
Yep. Phil Hester. This is a free one. You cannot tell that was a free one, though. You'd think, how much did you pay for it? Like, no, he did that for free, and that always impressed me how great it
Yeah.
was.
No, I love Phil. Phil's one of my favorite people in comics, no question.
Yep. Phil Jimenez.
Oh, great, man. He's coming back. He and Kelly Sue DeConnick
Oh,
we're
nice.
doing a creator commentary on that first issue of Wonder Woman His Story,
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna continue it because we only got halfway through the book. But
Right.
Phil's a great artist and a great guy.
Yeah. And I've always said this. Him and Nicola Scott are like the unofficial children of George Perez and how great they do art.
Oh, I like that. I
And
like that.
I've said that to both of them, and they both felt honored that. And there's always that rumor going on that at one point Phil and George met, and he called him son and all that. And
That
I've
would
always
be amazing, and I'm
story.
sure it wouldn't surprise me because clearly,
The,
certainly, Phil and
yeah.
Wonder Woman Perez
Mhm.
was obviously on his mind. It certainly is for the Black Label book and everything.
Oh
Mentioning
yeah,
Nicola though, goddamn,
yeah.
it was so lovely because she's literally on the other side of the world.
Hmm.
And it's like, oh, John, I love Word Balloon. And I'm like, oh, Nicola, that means so much because I had already been such a huge fan of her work. And
Hmm.
she's another through Rucka. She's
Yep.
another creator that, even though we're that far apart, when we'd both be in San Diego,
Hmm.
totally hanging out.
Oh
And
yeah, I've met her once too.
if I may, she also introduced me to Tom Taylor when
Ah.
Tom was just like starting to get Star Wars work. And we became friends. And it's like it is so nice. And that is the great thing about not only comics, but really with the way the internet and the way this has progressed, that we can have these kind of conversations, even the
Mhm.
one we're having right now, that you get to know these people. And it's like, oh, it's so nice. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
it's a real gift to me as a comic book fan that I've gotten to know these people on a personal level to a degree, and I take it seriously, and I don't, I don't take it lightly.
Right. Yeah, Todd Nowick did this one.
And
Oh, now this is where we get into my friend Dan. My friend Dan, the co-creator of the character, drew these.
that's cool.
Yep, but trying to find where is
Who's the
it?
guy?
Oh, the guy. Oh, that's her boyfriend. That's her boyfriend. Hold on, I'm trying to find this one. Oh, there. This is the one a friend of mine named Destikim. That's his screen name. Did, and this one is what I always use when I get people to do the reference shots and everything.
Oh,
And
that's great. No, it's beautiful.
yep. Hold on, I'm exiting out for a second. I'm gonna be
No
going back
problem.
in. Yep. Hold on. Gotta do it again just so I can get the Hold on.
Sure. No problem.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Because yeah, I gotta jump around because there's a bunch of other images. Like I'll just jump to the point. So hold on. Where is it? Where? Ah, there's that one, and I'll do another one. Sorry, just muttering. But this was one of the first ones I did of my character.
Okay.
On Ninjetta. Another one. This is done by Ron Friends. You see it?
Not yet. It's still
Oh.
just the two of us. I am moving though, so if you make the move, I'm sure it'll pop up. Ron Friends is another guy that I only had within the last 6 months for the first time, and
really
great conversation, tremendous guy. So
yep.
I really appreciated getting to talk to him, and I look forward to a new conversation with him anytime.
Right. Just let me know when it pops up, because this one is it's clearly based off of. You can tell which one of Ron's things he's co-creations he's worked on. It's based off of. Just let me know. But until then, what? Oh, now you're getting a little choppy. Yep. Lost you a second.
No problem. Sorry about that. I'm getting the message. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I still don't have. All right. I guess the screen's coming up. Is this the Ron Friends? And I'll see you in a minute.
Yep.
Hopefully.
Yep.
No, if you didn't hear me, at Terrificon, Bob Rozakis, I was approaching him, and he didn't know who I was. And thankfully, Chaikin is like, "Oh, talk to John. He knows what he's doing," and that meant a lot. And I get a lot of that. God, back in the day, DMZ, Brian Wood didn't know who I was, and Azzarello was hanging out with him, and he's like, "John knows what he's doing. Talk to John."
Right.
So, meant a lot.
Your image is frozen. I can hear you loud and clear, but your image is frozen.
Yeah, I see it on my end as well, unfortunately, and I'm just I got a blank space. As long as we can hear each other, that's fine.
Yeah, definitely. But funny enough, when you brought up about Comicsgate and everything, it's one of those cases where I was never fully a part about it. If I can just say it, I understand some of their points.
Yeah.
But it feels like they've gone so off the rails lately, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, they attack. Again, they've got every right as a reader to say, I don't like what you're doing with the character right now. That's fine. Right. That's totally legit. Fine. But what you don't have a right to do is, and by the way, Creator X is a jerk, or I don't agree with them, or even worse, to attack them for their sexual orientation. I mean, that's insane. That's insane.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I got to tell you, man.
I agree.
As someone that was born in 1964, I kind of thought we were past all that. But sadly, the last few years have shown that we're not. And in fact, a lot of those haters have been emboldened by various people in the culture right now. And that's a shame. And that's when you do have to stand up and say, no, that's wrong. Again,
I agree with that completely.
So again, I don't mind from a story standpoint them not liking a product. That's okay. But but don't attack. And if you are attacking, you're an asshole. And sadly, I have to attribute that to a couple creators that I actually felt were friends, and I can't support them now.
Yep. Oh, there. Yep. Well, we can see you moving now. You can see you moving now.
So, there's Friends. Yeah, that's a great round, Friends.
Yeah, that is a great one. And just so I don't lose it, I'm just going to zoom on ahead past a whole bunch of other artwork, good stuff. But I'm just Rich Buckler did this
Oh,
one
that's
of Danny
great.
Phantom
I have
before he.
I have a Rich
Yeah,
Buckler Deathlock that he did for me.
nice. But yeah, back in the day, so I tried to have him do Danny Phantom, but then eventually I focused on my own characters.
Sure.
On oh, this is my villain, Visceru. Andy Landing did this
Oh
one.
wow,
Angel Medina did this
very
one.
nice.
Chris Burnham did this one.
I love Burnham's another one of my guys. Yep.
Yep. Dan Fraga did this one.
Oh, wonderful. Big Dan
Yep.
Fraser fan.
Daniel HDR. Does that name ring a bell?
Not at all.
Yep. One of the more smaller tier artists, but loved what he did.
Oh, it's a great ending.
Dave Gibbons.
Oh wow, that's great. You got Dave. Holy shit.
Yep. Jim
Dave
Starlin did this one. Yep.
I was just gonna say Dave and Walt Simonson continue to compete as the nicest guys in comics.
Definitely.
And I love
Jim
Dave.
Starlin did this one for free.
Starlin, that's great.
Yep. Norm Rapman did this one.
Oh, I love Norm stuff.
And what I love about this one was, in case you didn't notice, some people give him a mask and everything for some reason. For some reason, they think the this artwork here, this is what I give him for reference. They think that's a mask. So, but he took that instead. When I told him that's not a mask, he took it and actually made it part of the face in a way that wasn't a mask. It was a birthmark. And I'm like, that's officially part of the character now. That is officially part of the character. No question about it.
That's cool.
Yep. Shane Davis did this one for free. Yep. Tim Seeley did this one.
See, this is what I mean. Tim's a brilliant artist. There you go.
Yep. Art Balthazar.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh, I know Artie right away.
Yep. And okay, so I got a few others from a different folder, so I have to get to that. But yeah, you can see I just go on my way to get these guys to draw all this stuff because I want to make this stuff one day, and I feel having pros doing this is better than having any type of concept art out there.
Well, and when you do eventually get to make your books, you're going to have a lot of great variant covers or back matters for whatever collection you want to do, and you've got all these amazing artists that did this work for you. That's amazing.
Exactly. One of which I did was by Norm Brayfogle had done.
Oh, that's great. I have two Norm Brayfogle pieces as well.
Yep, let me get to that. But
poor Norm.
The one,
that broke my heart.
Yeah, I did. Same here. But the one thing was this one, and let me know when you see it. Yeah.
Yep.
But the one problem is though, he gets the mask. He got the mask backwards. She's supposed to have the mask, a mouse mask with the T's, not a face mask. And I couldn't have the heart to tell him. It took him the entire weekend to finally get to it, and I did not have the heart to tell him. Dude.
No, yeah. A little fan tip. If they did it wrong, you got to eat this. You got to eat it and be like, all right. Because well, it's funny. I asked Norm, and this was early on for me getting art. I asked him to do a Superman for me because I never really saw him draw Superman. And he goes, well, what do you want me to have him do in the picture? And I said, have him reacting to a piece of kryptonite. And it's great. It's beautiful. And I said, oh man, I wish I had more money. I'd get a Batman from him. And he goes, I kind of screwed up. And he did this amazing Batman, but he had bats surrounding Batman, and he accidentally, like a water drop, hit one of the bats, and it kind of like it's like a splotch on the sketch, and he's like, I don't feel good giving this person the splotch. I'm going to redo it for him, pristine. I'll sell this to you, and this is way back before art prices got out of control.
Oh, I got an example of that when we get to it.
Finish. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm interrupting. Hey, pro podcast tip. You talk over people way too much. Stop it.
I'm sorry.
Right, anyway, so he's like, let me sell. It's okay. I'm jamming you, but I'm also telling you, you might not want to do that when you have guests on. Anyway, he's like, I'll give it to you for $20. I'm like, sold. So that's what I'm saying. So please tell me your example.
Yeah, but here's a good example of an artwork. I'll get to the example I'm having, but about our price out of control. But yeah, I had Aaron Lopresti do this one. This was a free one. I had Derek Robinson. This was Ryan Stegman. I got him right after he did the She-Hulk stuff, but before he got on to Scarlet Spider-Man, and it was like around $50 for this. When I saw him eventually after he started doing the spectacular, the Scarlet Spider-Man stuff or whatever. he had jacked it up to like 100 or something for this, and it's
Sure.
like, I know you become a big name, Ryan, but
It's not
really?
him, though, it's everybody.
Yeah, oh, I know, but that was one of those cases where I got him right at that right moment, and then afterwards, every time I would see him again, I'm like, I want to, but I can't because
Price
you know
is
what I
too
mean,
high.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just one of those. That's why I was trying to give an example of prices out of control as well, because just like I love it, I do, but I'm so happy with this one though. This
Oh, it's
one was a
beautiful.
great one.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, and this is my jewel character, but all grown up. That's what she is
Sure.
here, all
Sure.
grown up. And oh, this is Perez,
Oh, nice.
Billy Tucci.
That's
Which,
good.
funny enough, when I had him do this, I had no idea about she.
Oh,
No
funny.
idea about she. And then afterwards, I found out about it only recently. I'm like, I basically was perfect to ask him to do it.
Yeah, no kidding. You're right.
And hold on. Oh, Yannick Paquette did this one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yep, but yeah, that's most of my artwork. But as you can see, though, I'm just one of those guys who just I want to have every creator do my characters
Oh,
if
no,
I can
that's great.
afford them.
Yeah.
I do that because it is. These are stuff I still have up in my noggin up here. I have not written anything. I can't draw to save my life, unfortunately. So, but I have this whole universe in my head, and I just want to share it. I know there are so many people out there who want to do crowdfunding just because they want to make money or they want to do this. It's like me, I just want to share my idea with the world. And you know what I mean? I feel like, and this is one of my problem with Comicsgate with the crowdfunding scene they started. Too much reliance on creators, not enough world building, and basically they're relying so much on the creators to do it that they don't have it to pass it on to anyone. When if the creator died of a heart attack, it dies with them.
Well,
I want.
I'm of two minds as far as passing on a character to other creators, because you're right, that is the comic book tradition.
Mm-hmm,
But I also appreciate that like I they actually have done the Charles Schultz estate has commissioned new Peanut
mm-hmm.
stories here and there. I would
Yep.
never want to read a daily comic strip that isn't written by Charles Schultz.
Oh no, no.
You know what I mean? So I'm of
Mm-hmm,
two minds of that. And as far as crowdfunding, that's up to the creator and the community to
oh yeah.
decide whether okay, we'll follow you on your path or whatever.
Oh,
I
I agree.
as far as and it's great that you have your character. I have a handful of stories that I would love to get someone to draw, and they're
Mm-hmm,
reasonable size. They're not massive epics, but they are
mm-hmm,
individual stories. They're not connected in any way. But
mm-hmm,
I have that weird problem of most of the artists that I know are paying artists that are big time artists. So I certainly
mm-hmm,
wouldn't be able to ask them to do it and sacrifice time to create the stories. And really, I asked him to do that word balloon logo for me. Jesus, over 10 years ago, and I'm glad he
mm-hmm,
did it. But yeah, I mean, Artie's a good friend. Baltazar Franco's a good friend. My
mm-hmm,
buddy Scott McMahon, who does a lot of work with them, Scoot. He, they're guys that are making their books, and that's their main source of income. So I
mm-hmm.
wouldn't presume to impose my ideas on them. But maybe
Right.
someday we'll see. I mean, I'm right now. I'm really focusing on what I do in the podcast realm alongside
Mm-hmm,
Word Balloon, and I've kind of let the cat out of the bag a bit. I'm working on a monkeys
mm-hmm.
documentary series. Very
Ooh,
excited about that. Yeah,
nice.
and
I
I'm
can't.
very,
I look forward to it.
yeah. Well, I'm very lucky because the foundation of it is a good friend of mine who's a rock journalist interviewed all
Mm-hmm.
four of them when they were still alive,
Ah.
and so yeah, I mean we've got a lot of great archival stuff with them, but also new interviews that I've been conducting,
Mm-hmm,
and it's going to be a cool series, and it'll be coming out hopefully no later than March. I mean, we're really working hard and have been.
mm-hmm.
We started working on it before Mike Nesmith passed away, so
Right.
But I'm excited for that, and yeah, man. I mean, the pandemic in general, and I don't know how you've felt like this, but it has inspired my creativity to move forward. It hasn't
Oh,
paralyzed me.
agreed. I agree completely. I mean, for me, mean, for one, I have a job that deals with being at home on my computer because I'm an IT guy, but it's always giving me, my mind is always thinking. Every time I read a comic, I get fresh ideas, not ripping off ideas, but, of course, it's just like the general inspiration. Like Geiger, I start thinking, what would happen in a world when my characters came about after the nuclear apocalypse, stuff like that, things like that. It just, that's how my mind works. And yeah. Hey, John, I thank you for coming on. I'm just one running out of things to talk about, and
No
I'm getting
problem,
a
man.
bit tired. It's about 11 on my end,
Sure.
but I thank you so much for coming
Oh,
on.
Robert, I
And
thank you for the invitation. Truly, I really appreciate it. And
yep.
good luck with your channel. I'm glad you've got people, chiming in. And
Mm-hmm.
I see you have the same issue I do, where every now and then a bot sneaks in.
Oh
Glad
yeah,
you got good
I got good
moderators.
mods.
Yeah, you got the mods to take care of it. That's terrific. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
continued success, man. I hope things work out and you're getting out of your channel what you want. And good
Yep.
luck with your character too.
Thank you very much. And who else have you having coming on within the immediate future that you want to promote?
It's a good question. Well, like I said, Phil and Kelly Sue are coming up. Who
Mm-hmm.
do I have slotted? Do I have? I don't know. I don't have the calendar in front of me right now. I mean, I've got a lot of. Oh yeah, we'll set a day. J.M. DeMatteis,
Oh, nice.
Curry Randolph.
Mm-hmm.
They immediately come to mind. Phil and Kelly Sue.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Alex Segura, because
Mm-hmm.
he's got a new superhero novel
Mm-hmm.
that he wants to talk about. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there you go. There's a handful of people
Nice.
that are definitely coming up.
Nice. Oh, actually, before we go, I want to ask: have you ever had John Byrne on? Or that guy
No,
you've ever tried to get on?
I kind of blew it with John because
Ooh.
there was a great podcast in the early aughts around
Mm-hmm.
comics. They had
Mm-hmm.
John on. They did a great interview with John. John agreed in principle. We never got to it, and he kind of, oh, that's nice.
Hominid.
Hanius, he just subscribed to Word Balloon. Thank
Yep.
you very much, man. That's very
Mm-hmm.
nice. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, John kind of made that blanket statement. No more podcasts. I'm not doing them anymore. And I'm like, all right, I blew
Ooh.
it. You know.
Oh,
So I
geez.
guess
That.
I would love to talk to him because I am a fan,
Mm-hmm.
and also I think not only his obvious superhero work, but his Star Trek work as well. I think he's one of the
Yeah.
best Star Trek comic book writers out there.
Mm-hmm.
Not, in fact, I just even made the point on Twitter recently
Mm-hmm.
that I would love for New Trek to make a mini series with Carl Urban based
Mm-hmm.
on John's Leonard McCoy Frontier Doctor miniseries,
Yes.
and it's like
Yes.
what McCoy was doing before the first Star Trek the Motion Picture and after the
Mm-hmm.
5 year mission. And I'm like, that is a great idea, and I wish somebody would make a live action version of it because I think it'd be a great McCoy
So
story.
we find out where he got that weird outfit and that beard
Exactly,
from.
with the disco medallion and everything. Absolutely.
Yeah, I was like, what? You're just like, what was he doing? So yeah, well, for me, it was Byrne. I'd love to talk about Superman, Batman Generations, or his Doom Patrol.
Everything. No, John's an amazing writer, artist, and I know he's a curmudgeon, but I like that about him. The same reason why I liked Harlan Ellison and Steranko and
Mm-hmm.
those guys. Even Greg's a curmudgeon, for God's sake. He is.
Well, I did say that. Yep. Because I saw Byrne. There was an interview that he did for Marvel, the Marvel channel, a while back. I did not know it was Byrne because it didn't. He looked too young for how long ago. Because it was, but it was a recent interview. But the way he looked so young, and it was just like then finally it was John Byrne. I'm like, wait, that was Byrne,
That's
really?
interesting.
He sounded like such a nice, sweet guy in that, and it was like, yeah, I had
I'm
no idea that was him.
I'm glad to hear that he's made amends with Marvel because I know he held a grudge for a pretty
Oh,
long
I know.
time.
I think it was just for the interview. I think it was just someone asking to do a video interview, but that was it. But
Well,
yeah, it was.
it's. I mean, again, there's plenty of us out there that are doing this as far as podcasts,
Yep.
interviews, and stuff. You can't. You've got to be gracious and
Mm-hmm.
appreciative of whomever you
Exactly.
get, and don't. I mean, truly, again, I've been doing it for 17 years. I never walk into meeting a creator thinking they might know who I am, and I'm thrilled
Mm-hmm.
when they do. But just as often, it's like I've never heard of you, and it's like it's okay, it's fine.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. So again, John, thank you so much. Keep up the great work and take care.
Thanks, man.